I am the largest believer in karma that you'll ever believe. I do believe sometimes you don't get to see it happen, whether it be good or bad, but I believe in karma. And I believe you do good, good things happen. And I'm not saying just because we gave, but it was coincidental that at that moment our business decided to flourish.
Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, powered by Contractors, Closers, and Connections, Orlando. Join me for in-depth interviews with some of the top commercial real estate and development executives in the industry. We uncover their success stories, their strategies, and their lessons learned along the way. Gain valuable insight whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. From rags to riches, we sit down with this general contractor and learn how he went from sweeping floors to running a $200 million construction company. We're sitting down with Richard Haines with RLH Construction. Stay tuned for part one. Good morning, Beyond the Blueprint podcast. We have the pleasure to sit down with Richard Haines, good friend of mine I met a few years back. Been able to be connected with him, and so Richard, I appreciate you joining us here.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I know you're a busy man, so get you pinned down as well.
I try to take Fridays off a little bit. That's why I'm in shorts and trying to be a little casual now. Trying to enjoy life a little bit.
Good. So first off, just for our listeners, we wanted to start off with just kind of your origin story. So, you're where you are now with RLH and kind of traveling now and kind of taking a little step back, but the company is growing. But we want to start from the beginning and just kind of explain that.
Absolutely. So tell me if I get long-winded, but I am a Cinderella story, if you will. I'll start off by saying I actually never had aspirations to own my own company. It just kind of happened. So I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. I was born and raised a little bit in San Jose, California. A father that was a military man. Moved around quite a bit. We landed in Jacksonville, Florida. And, I dubbed most of my success to watching my father work. My dad was a three-war veteran.
Wow.
Yeah, passed away about 4 years ago at the age of 95. And all I've ever seen him do was work hard. Not big education. We don't come from a Yale University family. As a matter of fact, I am a high school dropout. Never had higher education, which, is usually the first question people ask you when they start chatting to you is, where'd you go to college?
Right.
I went to school of hard knocks. But at the age of about 14, I found my first job after school on a construction site up in Jacksonville working for a guy named David Hudson, D.W. Hudson Properties. And I had a broom and I had a shovel, and they worked me like an old baseball glove.
You're a laborer.
I was a laborer, man. I could tear braces out of a house and sweep a house like there's nobody's business. And I loved it. It was, without a doubt, the greatest time of my life. I loved what I did. I fell in love with construction. I watched it happen. I watched the guys working. I learned to cuss like a sailor at a young age, but it was fun. As odd as it was fun. And from there, the story just goes as the minute I left high school, at the age of about 17 actually, I was a superintendent building homes. At the age of 19, I had about 65 homes under construction. Wow. I had hair down my back and earrings, and I looked like a hot mess. But and nothing I say today is meant to be conceited, because my success is from the people I surrounded myself with and just paying attention. But I was good at what I did. I never worked to the clock. I just worked, and I motivated people, and I never would have anybody do anything that I wasn't willing to do. And years later, I find out that's the motto of all these Fortune 50 companies. Treat the CEO the same as you would the janitor, and the janitor the same as you would the CEO, and treat all people equal.
Right.
And so from there, in about 1990. That company was bought out by a firm in Kissimmee, Florida named Tommy Tompkins, Tompkins Heritage Homes. And they interviewed me to move to Kissimmee, Florida and run the operation. And I think I was 20 years old, scared out of my mind. And I packed a bag and I moved to Kissimmee, Florida.
So you just said, yes, I'll do it. I'll figure it out.
I live by the golden rule of the first answer is always yes.
I'll figure it out after.
Always yes. And I moved to Kissimmee, and was driving to a place they were putting me up, and true story on God's word is 2 cowboys were stopped in the middle of the street, and they were running cattle across the street. And I was sitting there, and I thought, dear God, what have I done?
Where am I?
Oh, my God. And, you know, it was a tough transition. I didn't know anybody, so I poured myself into my work. And I was there all total between the 2 companies, roughly about 11 years. That company got into some, we'll just call it financial difficulties when the junk bond market collapsed. And we decided to, the owner, a very dear personal friend of mine, Tommy Tompkins, who was extremely successful and an unbelievable mentor and still is today, just came to us and said, you know, it's time for everybody to go. And of course, at that point, there was not a lot of jobs to be found. And I thought, you know what? The concrete guys were always cool. They were always cool. They always looked like they had it going on. It was fun. They poured concrete. And who doesn't like to see the big trucks come to the job? And I thought, you know what? I'll go in the concrete business. And I was married at the time, had a child on the way, scared to death. I had about $6,000 to my name because that's what you do. You spend what you make. And I asked my wife at the time that, you know, I'm a gambler. I mean, I'm a gambler. You'll find out later. I will bet the farm. And I asked her if I could bet the farm. And, you know, her first word was, yes, I believe in you. And I went out and I did concrete work. And within about a year and a half, I had about 60 people working concrete.
So you started a concrete company?
Started a concrete company. My first company was called RL Haines Concrete and Construction. And in that term, I got my license, and I wanted to be more than just a concrete guy. But you know, it was a means to an end. And looking back, it was the hardest work I ever did in my life. I worked 7 days a week. I did payroll out of a bedroom in our house. I mean, it was unbelievably the hardest thing I ever did, but taught me the most lessons in business.
Sure.
You know, perseverance, never give up. You know, you don't own your own. You do whatever you have to do to make it a success. And all I wanted to do was feed my family. You know, kid on the way, married, wife worked at the same company, both are unemployed, just built a brand new house, which back in those days was about $140,000, but
Right. That house
might as well
is
have been
now
$20
worth-
million.
Right.
Yeah, it could have
Can't
been.
afford it, you can't afford it, no
Yeah.
matter.
And you know, I thought about my dad a lot, and my dad was a provider. And you know, I've been told I was a lot of things over the years, but all I've ever wanted to be was a provider. I really just wanted to provide for my family, you know. And you know, fast forward, every part of my body hurt, and I could barely get out of bed in the morning. And I was pouring concrete for apartment complexes, and I thought, you know what? I think I could build these things. I think I could do this. And again, you know, not a lot of money in the bank, and I just kind of, I would love to be able to truly tell my story of how I got to where I'm at today, but I got there by listening to the voice in my head from Tommy Tompkins telling me, hire the right people, hire people smarter than you, never have an ego where you're not afraid to hire somebody smarter than you.
Right.
And which is not real hard, because I'm never the smartest guy in the room, don't want to be, but I pride myself on having a lot of common sense.
Yeah.
And even when I couldn't afford it, I hired people that knew what they were doing and knew it better than me. And I have a lot of faith, I have a lot of trust, and I just left my office. I told my president, I am the world's greatest delegator. And not because I'm lazy, but because I believe in I can be doing something more important.
Sure.
You know, and so that's where it started. And today we are at 100 employees. We just sold out to an ESOP. And there's a whole story behind why I did that. I could have sold the company, cashed out, and just left. But again, I believe in people.
Sure.
And I just could not do it to my employees. I love my employees like they're my family. And I've been referred to as we have a cult following in our office.
Very loyal.
Extremely loyal.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just treat people right. People want to be there. And even in today's economy where all of my people are getting poached, and as is everybody's,
Sure.
and getting made ridiculous offers, you know, you either want to stay because you love what you do and you believe in the cause, or you want to go make a lot of money. And I'm good with either way. But we don't negotiate. We just, you know, you're here for the long haul, and you believe in your people and you believe in our team. or you look after yourself and you go make a lot of money. And I think Matthew McConaughey said it best, and who was, I wish I could speak like him. He's an amazing speaker. I wish I could be like him.
Whistle.
Yeah, it's something about it. It's amazing. But he said, figure out what it is you want to worship and worship it. And don't make any excuses for it. If money's your passion, do it. If it's the largest house on the street, do it. And don't make any excuses for it. Don't apologize for it. But choose what it is that you want. And I can honestly sit here today before you and God above and say money's never been my drive.
Sure.
It's never been my drive. My drive is to push myself to be as good and great as I can possibly be. And I've had a lot of questions over the years of, well, what does that look like? Where does that stop? And I was like, I don't know. I'll let you know when I get there. And I got there recently with the ESOP because I just wanted a little more balance. I wanted a balance in life I want to enjoy life. I want to see the world. I don't want to die at my desk. And, but I also want to work. I love what I do. And I'm that guy that can honestly say, my wife asked me this morning, getting up, she's like, where does your energy come from? I said, I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. Yeah. I love it, even if I know I'm walking into the battlefield of problems. My goal is to solve those problems and solve them where they're amicably perfect for each party. We don't always win.
So would you say that same feeling that you feel that you love what you do today was the drive and motivation that's you still had when you started your concrete company?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not an office guy. I haven't had an office within my office in the last 10 years. I sit at a conference table, or I'll sit in the accounting office. I'll sit in a cubicle. I love it. I love being, that's not going to sound good amongst my people. I love being in different departments and just listening to what's going on. And the first 10 minutes, nothing's said because I'm in the room, and then they forget I'm in the room.
Right.
And then I just love to hear what's going on in their mind. And you'll find out. I employ every owner of every company. Go sit and do your job within their offices. You'll find out what they like and they don't like, whether it be personal or anything. And I believe in people. I don't believe in business. Business can, listen, our business can fall apart at any time. It can be held on by a thread right now and we don't know it. The industry in whole is very volatile at most times. But I do what I do for the people. It gives me great joy every day to know that I am putting the food on the table. Mm-hmm. And when we have employees having children and they can afford to have kids, and I rejoice when they buy a bigger house, or if that's their thing and that's what they want, then we as RLH as a group, not me but collectively, we've made great strides. We've done that, and it sounds cliche-ish. Trust me, I've had people say, you don't chase the money because you don't need the money. We all need the money. Who are you kidding?
Right.
Well, nobody knows what's enough.
Right.
I mean, maybe Warren Buffett does, but the rest of us don't know what enough is enough.
Right.
But I watched my father growing up, and I know he stressed about money because we weren't wealthy.
Sure.
We were poor and I didn't know it, but it was such a basis that you don't need, the world has told us that we need more than what we really do. Mm-hmm. And we really don't. But there's a drive in us, and some people have that drive, some people don't, and their drive is all different. Mine is to succeed with a team to go out and build cool buildings. But I also know those buildings are going to be torn down in 50 years.
Right.
We're not
and
building
the impact that you make on those 100 of people while you're building that building is everlasting.
That's the reason I did the ESOP. Yeah. There's no hidden secret that our company was approached by many different companies. We were approached by a $1 billion company to get a foothold in Orlando, and it would have been an amazing deal. For me personally, it would have been fantastic for me.
Sure.
And I'm not going to lie and say I'm some Boy Scout here. I was that close.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I lay my head at night and I sleep like a baby. There's nothing that keeps me up at night because I know that tomorrow I can solve the issues. And I can lay awake all night and worry about the issues, but the issue's still going to be there. Mm-hmm. So I live by, the golden rule of I don't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow because I may not even be the guy solving the problem tomorrow.
Sure.
So for 3 nights in a row, I could not sleep. literally the only thing that kept waking me up is, you have preached it's all about people. And I would wake up going, what I'm doing is all about me.
Yeah.
And, needless to say, you don't get the same out of an ESOP as you get out of a private deal.
Right.
But again, I kept thinking back to what's enough? What is the number? What's the real number that you need to live out your golden years comfortably?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, people go, when are you going to retire? I'm 57 years old, and I still absolutely love what I do.
Sure.
And I love problem solving. I love being on the jobs. So for me, it was, what? I'll work as long as I'm not a burden to the company. But we have such great people that I've invested in for 30 years. Why would I destroy that?
Right.
That says that what I built really didn't mean anything to me. So we did the ESOP. It's been fantastic. Our first year was amazing. It takes about that first year for people to really understand they have ownership, they have pride, in knowing that, hey, he gave us a gift, and so it was. I shouldn't say that. Let me take that back. They earned a gift.
Yeah.
They absolutely earned a gift.
Right.
They worked hard, and so I just feel like my job today is to cultivate the team members going forward, which is different. We all know it's different today. But where people my age complained about the millennial age, I did too for a little while, and I thought I can complain about it or I can embrace it.
You adapt.
And I embraced it, and
Right.
I was like, you know what? Instead of bitching about it, let's learn about it. And so we've done a lot of things innovative in our company. We work 4.5-day weeks. We'll probably at some point go 4-day weeks, which is hard in the construction industry.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Hard to beat schedule. Maybe the superintendent is the PO.
Yeah, those guys in the field. Sorry if y'all are watching this. Sorry, but it's it is adapting. You're absolutely right. It's adapting. Our world has changed so dramatically. And one of the things I tell people now is, as a construction company, listen, I can go up against all the great guys in the world, and they're all fantastic. I have the greatest relationships with all of my competitors. We all build great buildings, and we all, every now and then, build a bad building. We all have our problems. In construction, you always have that one project. There's always once a year that you're going to have a problem with. But so anybody can do what we do, and the piece that we do is we do try to build a relationship. And I know everybody says that, but for me, the relationship is way more important than the project.
Sure.
And if I can get along with that person, it's going to be a great project. If their goals and their views don't align with ours as a company, then we're kidding ourselves. And we have jammed a square peg in a round hole, and we thought, nope, we got to do it. It's going to be such a great job, and it's been our worst nightmare. So you learn from those defeats, and you apply that going forward.
Sure.
And that's kind of where we're at today. And but it's not done in a vacuum. It's not me sitting there saying we're going to do this. It's a team effort, and it's a group effort, and they have stake in it now, and they say, well, let's all chat about it as a group.
Well, there seems to be a lot of intentionality and passion in driving from where it started to where it is now, and that's what keeps it going. The passion behind you wanting to help people make an impact, has grown the company, but it still influences your decisions today.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And there's been, 32 years doing this on our own. There's been a few people along the way that have made a serious impact in my life, and one of them was a young lady that I hired right out of college. I remember she was going to be our marketing agent. We were at that moment. We got to have a marketing person. We got to have a marketing person. This is long before social media, Facebook, and Instagram, and all that. And she came in and very professionally dressed and had a resume. And I think that day I was in flip flops and a pair of torn jeans. And she sat down and she slid her resume across the desk. And I was like, "You're 22 years old. You don't actually have a resume yet. No offense. Right. You haven't done anything." Right. And I said, "I see you're a college grad," and she wanted to talk about that a lot. And I said, "Well, how do you feel about working for a guy that has no education and no higher education?" And eyes kind of lit up because in a lot of world, the education is a big piece.
Stigma.
Yeah, it's a stigma. And she came to work for us, and can I say her name? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, her name was Mimi Scanlon at the time. It's Mimi Flatley today. And, did all the right things, did the marketing, the color photos, the big things. But I'll never forget the day she came into my office. She said, "Can we talk?" And I was like, "Yeah." She sat down. She's like, "You got to give back." I'm like, "Excuse me?" She's like, "You have to give back." I was like, "Give back what?" You know, in my mind, I took something from her.
Right.
Pen, pencil, paper clip, you know. She's like, "You have to give back to this community." And I said, "Okay, what's that?" And I wasn't being ignorant. I just was ignorant to it. And I was like, "I don't know what that means, giving back." And she said, and so I grew up with a very religious background early on. I know a lot of people are going to find that very interesting, but yes, I did. And I knew what tithing was.
Sure.
And, you know, I never knew what the tithing did. I just knew what it was. And I said, "Oh, you mean like giving to a church, like tithing?" And she's like, "Yes, but different." And she sat there for an hour or two and explained this to me, and I was so intrigued by it. And I said, "Well, then let's set up a program. Tell me how we do this. Tell me what we do to give back." And I am the largest believer in karma that you'll ever believe. I do believe sometimes you don't get to see it happen, whether it be good or bad, but I believe in karma. And I believe you do good, good things happen. And I'm not saying just because we gave, but it was coincidental that at that moment our business decided to flourish.
Right.
And she taught me what it meant to be a part of a Ronald McDonald House. And as it went on, it wasn't, I said, anybody can write a check, but do people go out and get their hands dirty?
Right.
You know, and my motto in life is, and it's even for me, is to get my hands dirty every day. Whether that means take the garbage out, sweep out I still push a broom sometimes. I love it. I just go out there and clear my head and push a broom.
Right.
My superintendents don't like it. They freak out. But and we designed and built a philanthropy part of our company, you know, and feel pretty good about that. I couldn't even say that word 20 years ago. And today, I feel like we don't give for the show. We give from our heart.
Sure.
And I absolutely believe that part of the reason that we have flourished and why we're still in business today is because we make an impact in the community.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes we get to see what that impact is, sometimes we don't. And it's as little as, you know, we have a wheelchair building program, wheelchair ramp building program, where my carpenters that, you know, have no idea what it means to give, don't have money to give, but they go out and give it their time and talents and build a wheelchair ramp. And we just did this a while back for 2 young boys that were in wheelchairs that couldn't get out of their house. And I watched some pretty rough grown-ass men cry when those boys wheeled out of the house. And that makes all the difference in the world.
I think there's a substantial amount of value. I mean, I'm sure you know, as coming from a religious background, I mean, back then, time and talents were a form of giving. It wasn't
Absolutely.
just about writing a check and you know, providing money. I think, you know, getting actually your hands dirty, getting down. I mean, we do through Contractors Closers Connections. We recently did the Give the Kids a World Village, where we volunteered. Awesome. And I mean, these kids are, you know, these kids are on, you know, they're dying, you know, and we just provided breakfast and we helped them to their tables. But, you know, sometimes even that laugh of that day that you made a joke or something like that goes such a long way.
You may not know. I tell my people, you may not know the life you touched
100%.
or the mark you left on somebody.
Sure.
And that's unfortunate you don't get to see it, but sometimes the reward will come in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And we were building a new Subaru store over on John Young. We cleared a bunch of land, and we were real big with Make-A-Wish. And Make-A-Wish had a young girl, 8 years old, I think she was, and I may be off on that, but all she wanted from us was a remote control excavator. Girl stole my heart. I'm like, "You're gonna be in construction one day.
Yeah.
You can come work for me."
Yeah.
And she's like, "I just want a remote control excavator." That's easy. Well, we set up an entire day for her to come out and run equipment on the job, and
That meant the world to her.
oh my God,
That changed her life.
And I will tell you that, not to plug Subaru, but executives from Subaru showed up and brought her toys that were excavators. We had excavators lined up, bulldozers, dump trucks, and we actually let her operate them. And to see her face and the tears, and then a bunch of grown men on a construction site in hard hats crying,
Right.
it was beyond, and it was nothing. To me, unfortunately, I shouldn't say it was nothing. It was just such a simple act.
Right.
And the impact it left on this young girl's life that, you know, in God's plan, if she grows up and makes it, I have a feeling that girl's going to make an impact in the construction industry one day. It
And
was,
she's going to remember that moment and then give it back.
oh, it was so cool.
Yeah.
You know, and again, not to sound cliche-ish, yes, we build buildings. Yes, we want to be good. We want to make money. We're not a non-for-profit company. We want to, you know, pay our people. But that's really, at the end of the day, what it's about.
Sure.
It truly is, because, you know, you can win awards. You know, my greatest accomplishment for me was bidding and winning and building the Lexus store on I-4. That's my crown jewel, if you will. But you know what? I go by there now, and there's footprints on the wall, and there's some cracked concrete, and you know, someday, one day I'll come along, tear that down, and build something on it. You know, and so those things fade away. But I live by the meet Joe Black, you know, and laying on his bed and dying, and all you can take with you is your pictures. It's the memories that you make and the things that you do that make a difference in somebody else's life.
Sure. One of the mantras that I love and I frankly live by is be the change that you want to see in the world.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's a really good thing to live by. Well, Richard, I mean, that's very, I love the passion. Honestly, I think that most people don't really know that true story. So I do appreciate you sharing that. Even with your personal story, but also the story behind what you guys do and the intentionality behind that. So we're going to jump into part 2. So everybody stay tuned for part 2. We're going to jump into some of the successes and how Richard and RLH structured their business to become what it is today, and some of the things that he does and some of the things that he doesn't do. So stay tuned.